It's here. Our brand new MakerBot has arrived. A special shout out of thanks to the folks at MakerBot for providing us with this device so that we can do our DIY IT discovery program on 3D printing. My name is David Gewirtz, and let's dig inside this machine and see what makes it tick.
And here it is out of its shipping carton, ready to be configured and set up.
This is the build tray that will actually construct the device, whatever you build. So the size of the tray is pretty much the limit of the size of the objects you're going to build. In addition, probably the single most important piece is this, which is the extruder. You can see the tiny little tip in the middle. This is what the filament comes out of, and this is what actually does all the 3D printing. This thing will basically move around like a regular printer, and then the base, the tray, moves up and down. This is pretty cool stuff. So let's move on to the next step, which is actually trying to set the thing up. What do you think? I'm just gonna pull my hand up here and kind of do this freehand so you can see. Now that's the actual inside of the device, and you can see this gantry here, which is gonna move back and forth. And you can start to see some of the elements like this thing, which is gonna be moving the actual unit back and forth. This, as you can see, is gonna move back and forth this way, and this is the feed tube. This is the feed tube, which will feed in the actual filament. All right, so those are the plastic support pieces. Let's get in there and see what they're like. All right, they just pull out slightly, as you can see, and they're just sort of support mechanisms. So they pull away from the wall with a little handle, and there we go, and that frees up the tray. Okay, so I'm going to see if we can install the smart extruder. This is where it goes. This is this gantry that goes back and forth I showed you before. The extruder connects to the gantry. It's got a series of sensors here, as well as a connection point, and that's how the thing actually connects in. This is the actual extruder, and you can see the same corresponding thing, the holes on the other side, because I'm going to flip it around. So let's do that. Let's flip this around. And all we're going to do is basically find that point, and boom, it's in. It's connected by probably neodymium magnets, so it just boom right on in, and there's a smart extruder. And you can see it a little better if I give you a little more light. You can see it installed. This is the view from the back of the machine. While I'm back here, I might as well show you the back of the machine. You can see in the lower corner there is a USB port and an Ethernet port. Once you can get a better picture over there. There you go. And on this side, you've got power and the on-off switch. So that's pretty much the back. And then up here is going to be where the actual filament goes in. We'll do that from the front. Okay, so the next phase of this project is going to be to install the filament, and I am going to start with gray. I want to save the cool colors for later, and push this little button down, and there's the filament drawer. It comes up and just comes up. Filament looks like it pops out here. There's a little bit of a little spot and another little spot, so it looks like it undoes itself here. It's kind of cool, all this stuff. It's just sort of plasticky, which you might expect. And I am going to place this, see if I can get out of your way. I'm going to run this piece of filament around a little bit, make sure it doesn't jam up. Push that back in a teeny bit. Come on, you can do it. There we go. And push it until it snaps. The next thing I'm going to do is take this piece of filament and just stick it in this tube. Try to stick it in this tube. There we go. Stick it in this tube. Push the tube back down because it popped out a little bit. And just slowly channel. It's going to come out the end of this thing. I don't know if you can see that. I hope so. But I'm channeling it out through here, and you can see the wheel turning. And this is where this is basically your printer's ink. So I can feel it in my hand, my left hand, and there we go, it comes out. So the next step is pretty easy, but you got to be a little bit careful. I'm moving this tube out of the way. Remember the switcher. Now I'm holding the drawer because this thing will just fall straight down. It just releases the thing. So I'm supporting it and just bringing it on down. And there you go, the drawer is down. And that is the printing mode. So to take the spool out, you just push this thing, and it's a little heavy because you got to spool the thing here. You got to lift it till it snaps, and then again, back down like so. Okay, so this step is what I actually have figured is probably the hardest. The printer comes with a flat piece of giant painter's tape, which is your basic blue tape. And it's supposed to be applied to the surface of the deck. And I have never been a good tape applier, but as I recall, it's good to peel back the end. So I'm going to peel back the end, try to line it up like so. Those of you who are good at this, don't laugh at me. I'm just not a good tape applier. But I'm going to try to gently put this piece of tape as best as I can, which is clearly not perfect. Try to get bubbles out of it and stuff. Across. Now, I don't know if this is meant for this, but looks like it'll do a good job of helping get that blue tape on there. Get rid of the bubbles. Got little bubbles there. Okay, so far that looks pretty well. Many bubbles. Okay, let's come back up. All right, no bubbles to this point anyway. All right. Don't know whether or not bubbles are important because it's the bottom of something, but it would seem to me that bubbles aren't the greatest thing in the world. So I'm just using this sort of spudger-like device to push this across. Check it out. I don't know if you can see this in the camera, but I am not doing half bad at this. And I gotta tell you, this is not my area of competence. All right, I'm a little off the edge. Hopefully that won't be a problem. Looks like it slides in, so I'm gonna just fold that over. Hope nobody notices. That's pretty cool. So there you go, painter's tape on it. Tiny little bit over the edge. Don't tell anybody. So before I put on the build tray, I'm going to point out something I just noticed, which is up in the upper right of the machine is what looks like a USB 3 port. So I guess you can put a USB 3 thumb drive in there. Okay, so I'm shooting this from a bit of an angle because I'm going to try to actually put the tray into the tray thing. It pulls down a little bit, so that's as far as it seems to go on its own. There appear to be guides here and here. So, oh yeah, there are. And it kind of fits under something. So it just slides in kind of like a refrigerator drawer, honestly. And in and down. And there we go. There's our build plate. Pretty cool. So the next step is to plug in the printer and power it on. So I'm going to go around the machine, find a plug, find a place to put it on my plug strip, and let's take a look. That's exciting. It turns out that the power plug pushes the cord away from my workbench a bit. So I'm going to try to get one of those L-tip power cords so it doesn't take that much space in the back of this thing, because my workbench is just the depth of the MakerBot. The other thing I want to quickly point out is I'm plugging this into battery backup, both because I don't want the occasional intermittent Florida weather to get in the way, and also because I don't want a print to die in the middle. So I'm plugging it in. I'll probably move this battery backup to a better location at some point soon. Well, I've powered on the MakerBot and I'm waiting for it to boot up. This is cool. It says it's finishing startup. Took about 2 or 3 minutes to get to that point. Here we are. Let's get started.
It's alive.
So we are apparently heating the extruder for assisted leveling. Okay, so I've dropped a light in there so you can see the leveling wheel. This is one leveling wheel. Now let me move the light back. There's a leveling wheel in the back. Now what we need to do is move them around to get the level right. So there's a screen. Let me take this up for a sec. This screen tells us how to adjust the leveling. Bring it back here as I do it so you can kind of watch me do it. And so I'm going to go through and I'm going to attempt to level. Now everything I understand about and I've read about 3D printers say that leveling is a tough part of the job. And what I have read about this device is that it does a lot to help that. So right now it says checking center point. So we're waiting for that. And it says checking first position. See if you can see any of that. Yeah, you can see some of that. Not a lot. Let's see if I can bring it up a little bit. Alright, you should be able to see both the leveling knob here and the extruder up here. And what I'm supposed to do is turn the front knob slowly in the direction shown, it shows it on the top, until the light goes on. I don't see any light. It's a little freaky. There we go. Okay, so it's checking first position. Position calibrated. Okay, so now it's moving to the next position. Okay, so as you can see, it's lighting up. It's checking the first position. You can't really see the screen, but it says position calibrated. Now it's moving to the next position. So I'm going to push the button. And please wait. So we're waiting. I will say it takes a little bit of time to make this happen. But I mean, we're talking about like replicator technology. So, I mean, and not MakerBot Replicator, but like Star Trek Replicator. So it's probably okay to wait a few minutes while it figures out where it is and who its master is and all of that stuff. So it's clearly moving to a new spot. And it's doing something. All right, so now it says leveling complete, continue. Let me pull the flashlight out of the way. Now let's continue, because I don't know if it's going to go all the way down. I figured I'd get that out of the way before it got eaten. All right, you can see the tray coming down. You can get a better picture of it this way. There you go. Level build plate. The build plate is now level. Let's load filament. All right. It's now telling me how to load filament and telling me how to put it in the tray, which I did already. So it says it's heating the extruder. Let me see if I can show you this. There you go. So the target is 215 degrees and it's heating up the extruder. And there is the MakerBot, and there's the piece of filament that I'm eventually going to put into the extruder. Okay, so it's time for me to push the filament in. Let's see if I can show you that in any way. Alright, so let's see. Right there is the filament hub, and I'm supposed to push it in until I start feeling it take it. Okay, so it took a couple of tries, and I had to snip the end of the filament before it worked. But there's the filament, and there's it coming out of the extruder. Push the button. We're ready to choose continue to print a test print. So I'm going to pause this while I figure out what I want. So I'm going to choose the coffee table, but I'm going to adjust the camera so you can see it actually print. Okay kids, I'm about to push the button. Here we go. Let's watch the coffee table print. It says it's going to take 30 minutes. I'm not going to make you watch all 30 minutes, but I'm going to push the button. first thing it's doing is it's heating the extruder. It's at 130 to 180. All right, so we're at 79%. It's taken about 15 minutes. And as you can see, it's adding layer upon layer upon layer to this little tiny coffee table, which is, well, I don't know, I'd say about 1 inch by 2 inches just by visual look. So it's the process of 3D printing can be tremendously time consuming as it adds a tiny little layer on top of a tiny little layer. But still very cool. Now, one of the things that you'll notice is it's printing the coffee table upside down, and that makes a lot of sense because it's adding stuff to it. If it printed it with the legs down, it would have to print the legs down and then somehow span the entire table surface. So one of the key things when doing 3D printing will be to figure out the orientation of the object you're printing, not for how it may wind up in the real world when it's done, but for how it's going to print and be supported on the printing bed. It's kind of neat. You can kind of see the ridges and things of the table as it's printing. Now it's at 83% and it says it has 16 minutes left, so we will... No, actually I'm reading it wrong. It's at 84%. It has cooked for 16 minutes, but there's only 5 minutes left. So that makes more sense because it's done most of the table. And now it's going to do the legs in a minute. It's undoubtedly going to do the legs in a minute. So let's see how that works. One of the things that's very cool about this machine is it has its own little webcam. So you don't have to sit here and watch this thing. You can have it over Wi-Fi. You can kind of see how far it's done and what it's been doing and stuff like that, which I just think is the coolest thing ever. We'll explore all of that and how we make use of it and how we build designs and all that stuff as we go forward in this program. But I just have to say, this is pretty much the coolest thing ever. Yeah, you can start to see the leg platforms taking form right there. Okay, tell me that's not really cool. The potential for design prototyping is amazing. You know, in the movies they do like mock-ups of what they call previs of what a scene might look like. They do it in sort of a quick animation thing to just get a quick look at something. You could use 3D printing to print out a design that's pre-production or even concept, not just for like a consumer Kickstarter kind of thing, but something like a table or a cabinet or a building, and basically have it print a model so people can actually hold it in their hands and get a feel for what it's going to be like. It's just, it's crazy cool. So we're at 93%, 94%. So we're at 97%, and as you can see, the legs have taken form, but you can also see there's like some hanger-ons that are probably going to need to be cleaned off. It's sort of plastic fuzz. Kind of reminds me of old school plastic models, you know, when you had to sort of take them off the spans and trim them up and then, you know, sometimes sand them down and glue them together and paint them. I get the same kind of feeling with this, although I'm not entirely sure what kind of glue is used with PLA, which is this this filament. I know that you can use acetone with ABS, but this printer is mostly designed for PLA. It's done. It's done, it's done, it's done, it's done. Let's see if I can focus in. It's done. Look at that. It is done. So let's see if I can take, I'm gonna take the camera off of here for a sec. There's a piece of filament. I don't know if you can see. There's a little bit of filament right along coming from the extruder head. So I'm gonna show you the extruder head right there. Okay, so here it is. Let's see. This is the raft, which is the base, the level base of the thing. But here's the table. Take a look at that. Let's see if I can adjust it so you can see it. Come on, focus. There we go. I mean, look at the detail in the legs. I mean, just look at that. That's a little table. So now you can also see that there's a lot of stringiness here. Let's see if we can get a focus on it. Yep. So what I want to do is I need to first take off the raft, which is this piece here. And in doing so, I got to be really careful because those legs look pretty fragile. So I'm going to just pull, keeping my hand. Well, that end cracked off pretty well. There we go. Okay, let's come around the side again. Yeah. Okay, so, whoa, there we go. So that's the raft, that's the part that holds the table, and that is the actual table model. Let's get a better focus on that. Whoops. That's the table model. Okay, that is just incredible. That is just completely, insanely incredible. All right, so let's do a little bit of trimming on that. I'm gonna use trusty scissors to get these stringy things off. And right now I'm doing it up in the air. Normally, I think I will probably go to balance it on the table, but I want you to kind of see pulling off the stringy bits. I've got a small dog, so I'm going to want to come in here later and clean that up. Let's see if I can scrape off the little bits of it. There's also stringy bits on the side, so let's snip those off. More of the stringy bits, and you can probably see there's stringy bits here too. So the whole table is kind of held together with these stringy bits. I'm just going to pause this for 1 second, go grab a knife. All right, I just pulled an old utility knife from my shelf. And let's bring a focus on that. And all I'm doing is just lightly going over it. Now I'm probably put more time into finishing this at some other point, but I just wanted to show it off because it's just so cool. I mean, that's a little table. That's just incredible. I mean, I printed that in, I mean, I made this in my garage. That's just the coolest thing ever. Okay, so in addition to this table that I showed you a little while ago, a bunch of hours have gone by and I have printed all of the samples that are built into the memory of the MakerBot. And each one has some unique characteristics. This one came on a raft solidly, and you snap it off and you get a chain, and each of these individual pieces are loose, and they were made that way on the printer. I mean, they're just, and it's, I mean, this is strong. I mean, I'm pulling and it's, I mean, it's, and I'm twisting. I mean, this is pretty strong stuff. So there's that. This is a silly little shark-like guy, but what makes him interesting is take a look at the eye socket. That is a teensy-weensy little hole that I didn't drill. This was built into the 3D print. And of course, you've also got these things, which are a little bit flexible. So you got a little bit of flexible plastic, and the back end of this thing is hard as a rock. Very strong. Probably the single most amazing piece that, like the part that blew me away. Okay, and I got to tell you, I have the past while getting started with this 3D printer, everything has blown me away. But this, okay, this printed flat like this. So let me move these out of the way for a second. It printed on the print bed flat in this format. You pop the two of them up, and you've got a bolt with knurling on it, really nice, and a nut. Now notice inside there is thread. Now check this out. This is insane. Threads together. It's a working nut and bolt that work together, and it's tight. I mean, look at the joint between those two things. Is that incredible? And then finally, I'll show you something else. This is, again, really strong, but I'll show you something that shows you a little bit of how thin you can go. Let's make sure you take a look at this. Look at this. This is a little bracelet. My wife actually was able to put it on her wrist. But look at just how thin this is, to the point that you can flex it, pull it. Still pretty strong. There's a pattern on the outside. This is incredible. This printed this way, flat, and came out. So we have gone through, let me bring these back here. We have this, and we have the fish, and we have this, and let's bring our friend the table back in as well. Which on the angle you see, it kind of looks like it's on an angle, but let's just sort of set it down here. We have all of these pieces, and you can see it from the bottom. We have all of these amazing pieces, and this is just the setup. I haven't built my own designs. I haven't downloaded anything yet. This is just the initial setup, and I am completely blown away. I mean, I've watched this stuff. I've watched hundreds of YouTube videos. I've been looking at this now for quite a while. But until you see something like this or something like this just generate itself in your garage while you're doing something else, making dinner, or you know, in my case, I was working on PowerPoints and coming back, and it's insane. It's incredible. I showed these to my wife, and her comment was, and this is a great place to end it, that she was glad she got to live long enough to see this in action. And, you know, I mean, hopefully we have 30, 40, 50 years left of life, but even so, I mean, we're in the first few years of this. Can you imagine where this technology is going? It is mind-blowing. And so over the next weeks and hopefully months, I will take you on many different projects, hopefully in many cases really useful things that you can, you know, solve actual real problems in your workspace and at home with. But this is a mind-blowing technology. Thank you very much for ZDNet's DIY IT. My name is David Gewirtz. And again, a special shout out of thanks to the MakerBot folks to making the MakerBot Replicator 5th generation available to me to take you through this journey. Stay tuned, there's more to come.